Welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Vincent A. Lanci.
And I'm David Jenyns.
Welcome to the first episode of Season 8. The show returns to Australia to kick off the season with an entrepreneur who will explain how implementing the right systems can make all the difference. Whether you are looking to start or scale your business, this is the show for you. Each week, I interview a different entrepreneur from across the globe. I will continue to offer episodes in all industries to provide you with many different perspectives. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. Each guest will take you through their story and help you learn from their successes and lessons learned. My guest on the show today is someone who heard an episode and wanted to add value through his experiences. This Australian entrepreneur started his journey back in his early 20s when he sold Australia's most loved sporting ground, the Melbourne Cricket Ground. He quickly became a serial entrepreneur with diverse experience. Today, his mission is to free all business owners worldwide from the daily operations of running their businesses. Recognized as a high-achieving entrepreneur, you will find many of David's keynote presentations on YouTube, including TEDx Talks, WordCamp, and ProBlogger. We will also learn about his recent book, Systemology, Create Time, Reduce Errors, and Scale Your Profits with Proven Business Systems, where he lays out how small business owners can implement the right systems in their businesses. I am excited to learn more about this journey, so allow me to now introduce David Jenyns. David, thank you for connecting, and thank you for hopping on the first episode of Season 8.
Thank you for the introduction, Vincent. Very excited and keen to share some lessons and insights for the listeners.
Absolutely. Would you mind please introducing yourself to our listeners and previewing your story just a bit without giving away too much of your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, being an entrepreneur since day dot, I kind of feel like I came out an entrepreneur. So I've been in a lot of different businesses along the way. Probably my most recent, most well-known was a digital agency that I ran for about 13 years. And I got really trapped in that business for, I would say, maybe 10 years too long. And I was just doing the same thing over and over and over, wax on, wax off. And it wasn't until I had that epiphany that, I need to change the way that I'm doing work. We found out we were pregnant and we had a son on the way. And I thought, I don't want to be that entrepreneur who's always too busy, that dad who's working ridiculously long hours and just not there. So I thought I needed to make a change. And then that's really what got me heavily interested in systemizing businesses. I systemized the digital agency, stepped out, hired a CEO. She ran that business for 3 years until we ended up selling it. And that's what really set me on my path for what I'm working on now around helping business owners get out of the operations. And that's a big part of what Systemology is about.
I am certainly excited to get into this episode because of your passion behind what you do. We had a nice talk before the show started, and I think it will now be a great time to head into the Big Five. On each episode, my guest and I will go over these 5 questions to help you, the listeners, learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. You ready to go, David?
Let's do it.
When did you realize that you either weren't happy with what you were doing or you needed some kind of change to truly start this entrepreneurial journey? If there's a moment, please describe it for the audience.
I think the moment it was kind of like a set of circumstances. I had been living at home with my mum after my parents had split. And it was really the desire to become an entrepreneur was about kind of moving away from that life. Money was always an issue growing up, the cause of quite a lot of fights, and put a lot of stress on my parents' marriage, and ultimately that's what sort of caused them to break up amongst other things. But I kind of looked back at that and I thought to myself, I don't want to be in that situation. So I just went to work incredibly hard to almost like that moving away strategy, doing everything in my power that I could. So it was those set of circumstances. And that's why I said as well right at the start, I kind of feel like I've always been an entrepreneur. I started doing different things, running little businesses, consuming lots of, content. Back in the day, it was tapes. You'd listen to Amway tapes and they get you all pumped up, and you'd be standing on your seat in your bedroom getting all pumped up. And that was sort of some of my earliest memories of kind of moving into the space.
Yeah, it's always nice when the guests come on the show and share a little bit of their background, because that's certainly a way that you're able to resonate with the listeners. You saw something that you wanted to make a change on and you acted on it. You became an entrepreneur, you think a little younger than officially as titled, but on this huge entrepreneurial path, whenever it may have started. What would you say the two most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur are for you?
I think what makes being an entrepreneur so challenging, and there's a few. So I mean, it requires an incredible amount of persistence, because at every turn you have to keep pushing, and oftentimes it's quite an isolating and sort of lonely position to take. So you kind of have to be really comfortable with your own space and being able to be self-led and self-driven. So I think that persistence, and the persistence as well. The other thing that's challenging is because there's so much to learn to be an entrepreneur, and at every level as you grow as an entrepreneur, that just unlocks the next level of things that you need to think about. So at the start, you kind of just learning the basics of running a business, and you learn about different departments, and you have to learn sales and marketing. And as your team grows, you have to learn HR, and there's, management, and then there's just the doing of the work, whatever the product and the service is that you're selling. And then as that starts to grow again, it's almost like a new level, and it unlocks new challenges. So I think that's what I enjoy most in one way, because I kind of tried to trick my brain into thinking that the difficult is actually pleasurable. Like I like that challenge, but that's also the most difficult part.
I could resonate with you a lot there, as far as, and I like the way you put that. It's the first unlocking new levels. I can certainly relate, because when I got my MBA, I thought, okay, I accomplished something big. Something should open. Some things did, but it just opened new ideas. So then after the MBA, it was the book. And after the first book, okay, then there was the two podcasts. There was just ways to continue to grow the brand. And now I'm over here taking Spanish lessons so I can get into the school districts with my mental health song with English and Spanish, just constantly, as you say, unlocking new levels. I love that. But speaking of all these lessons learned, what would you say one of your greatest failures or lessons learned is, David? And what did it teach you? Please describe why it stuck with you all the way up until today.